So let's talk about projectiles. Now, so far we've talked about in physics, we've talked about one-dimensional motion. So we've just talked about motion either in the x-axis or the y-axis. Now, the main thing that separates projectiles from everything else is the fact that projectiles move in two dimensions. So in this case, they are going to move in the x and the y dimension. Okay, and the factor in this is that the x and the y are independent of each other. So something moving with a horizontal velocity is independent of that of the y velocity. One thing that I will point out here that I think is probably the biggest thing to understand when dealing with projectiles is that in the x-axis, we're going to say that the x-axis velocity is constant. So the only equation that you will use in the x-axis is velocity equals displacement all over time. That is the only equation that you use. So the only variables that you can have in the x-axis are velocity, distance, time. Okay, that's what you can have. Now in the y-axis, since we always have an acceleration, because normally we're dealing with things that are on Earth, since we always have an acceleration, which is 9.8 meters per second squared, that means that we're going to be using all of the if-that equations. So all the if-that equations apply to the y-axis, and only constant velocity deals with the x-axis.